be talking about the 10 books that I read in the month of April. So, I don't have all of the physical books here, so I will just see if there can be a picture here somewhere. So, I read 10 books in the month of April, which is actually very, like, surprising for me. Well, to be fair, a lot of them were short books. One was even a short story, but still, 10 books. I'll take it. I'm impressed, to be honest. So, the first book I read this month was Dracula by Bram Stoker, obviously. I had, like, higher expectations, like, high expectations, because I've been wanting to read this book for, like, years, and my expectations weren't met necessarily. It was not as scary as I thought. I mean, it was fun to read because all of like the classic like folklore, like vampires and like superstitions and all of that came back into that book, but it wasn't scary. It wasn't like mind blowing. You know what I mean? It was like the characters kind of sucked. Dracula was only there for like maybe like 20% of the book maximum. So that, and then the whole middle part was very like slow, and then the ending was very anticlimactic. Like it felt like he just like it was just fixed like that, and I hate it when books do that because I'm like, why can't you just like you're making me read this very long book? I think it had almost 600 pages, right? You're making me read this very long book, and I'm like excited for the ending, and then you just give me nothing. It was just too long. Like I felt like so many parts could have cut out because half of the book was just people like trying to hype each other up. And I'm like, yeah, go for that, but I don't care enough to hear you hype people up for like 50% of this book. The only character I like was Mina, and like she was a pretty badass. I like her. Those little elder men walk all over her for quite some time, but this book was set like years and years ago, right? So what can she do about it? I like Minga. So yeah, all in all, it was a bit disappointing. I'm glad I finally read it because I've always wanted to read it, and this was like a good time for me to read it. I probably should have read it in October, but hey, April felt like a good time. I was in the mood for it, so I read it. Sue me. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. 3.5 out of 5 stars, sorry. So not bad, not great. So would I recommend it? I guess, like if you like classical stories and you want to read like one of like the horror genre, then like go for it. For me, most of the classic books that I've read, I didn't quite enjoy them, and that could just be personal preference. I just have a hard time with the writing usually, and that's just, yeah, can't do anything about it. It's just hard to get through them sometimes. The second book that I read was Evelyn by, I think it was James Joyce. I don't have the physical book of that one either. It would also be like this thing because it's only 20 pages. Does it even count as a book? It's a short story. I think it does. It's about this woman who has like a romance with a sailor, and then she has to decide to like either stay with her family and like support them and her father even though they like suck, or go with this sailor and have like this romance and take like a chance. And then like it goes very deep into like the feelings of guilt which come with making a decision like that, and how she's struggling with like deciding what she kind of wants for herself. So yeah, it was interesting. I rated it 3 stars. I mean, the rating was good. I read it in like 10 minutes. It was great. Don't have more to say. So the third book I read was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have had this book on my TBR for like years, and I finally picked it up. I enjoyed it. I had a hard time picking it up whenever I wanted to sit down and read. I didn't find myself like intrigued enough by the book to like sit down and actually take time out of my day to go and read it. Like there are things I would have rather done, books I would have rather read, and still I rated it 4 stars because I like the writing, I like the story it was telling. Yeah, and the plot twist at the end had me like, what the hell, Evelyn? Like, girl, no. Like that's, when you think about it, that's actually like insane to me. If you've read it, you know what I mean. And I think most people have read it by now. I'm just very late on this book. It's also my first book by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think I might pick up more books by them. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, it was fine. Like, I enjoyed it. Obviously, I rated it 4 stars, but I think most of the characters kind of sucked and was very slow. And I would have preferred it if it was a bit shorter, I guess. But that's just me. Like, I know it's like a BookTok baby. And I can see why it's popular. I can see why people like it so much. I did annotate it or something. Obviously, I did like it enough to do that. But yeah, good book. Solid 4 out of 5 stars. Go pick up more books by this offer if I have a chance. When I can buy more books again. The fourth book I read this year was Killjoy by Holly Jackson. And if you read the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, I think this one will be fun. It's like kind of like a prequel to the whole series. But I will say it was very like very young adult. Like going from like As Good as Dead to this book was kind of like a mind fuck. But yeah, it was fun to see all the characters again and like, you know, like people we got to know in the series, and then when you read this, like people has no idea what they've done and who they truly are and like anything about that, and that's like, it's like whoa, like it changed so fast when you really think about it, and that's kind of insane to me. I rate this 3 out of 5 stars. It's very short, like it's like a little bit over 100 pages. I think it had like 120 pages, so it's not a long read at all. And yeah, it was this very young adult, and yeah, but I read it in like one sitting because it's so short. Did enjoy it. If you like Good Girls Guide to Murder series, then I think you will enjoy this as well. I think it's a nice thing to add to your little like collection. Do recommend. The fifth book I read this year is the only book I rated 5 stars, and it's These Woods Are Always Watching, or The Woods Are Always Watching by Stephanie Perkins. And if you like, if you've heard me talk about this book before, I don't know why I loved it so much. Like the average Goodreads review rating was like 3 stars. Like I'm not even joking. It wasn't good. Like it was very average. And to me, like maybe I've just been reading very bad books this year. Like I've only rated 3 books 5 stars this year, and that's like a bit of a mind fucking zone to me because I'm like, what the hell am I doing? But hey, we're learning, we're reading, it's fine. But this book, it just fucked with my head. I don't know why. Like I didn't like the first book I read by her, which is also the only other book that she's written. I rated like 3 stars, I think, and then I picked this up and I was like, oh my god, I'm going insane while reading this book. I don't know why it grabbed me that much. It just, I wanted to reread it like for the first time because I was having mind fucks left and right, like, and I was like doing a time lapse while I was reading it, and I can see my own face going like, this book is insane. Like something about like people being chased in the woods and like being injured and not having anywhere to go, like messes with my head. And this one, I was like pick it up, but you probably I don't know if it's just me who really enjoyed this book. Probably not, but it feels like it. But yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. I love this so much. Like if you can't tell, I get so excited about it. The 6th book I read this year, I don't have a physical copy of, was The Circle by Dave Eggers, and it was a downside. I rated 2 out of 5 stars. I hated the characters. I hated the way the conversations went. I hated the ending. I just hated the whole premise of the book. It was creepy, but not in a good way. It just freaked me out. Like it's about this company who's like working to like making knowledge more like open, and like everything should be known to everyone, like personal things, like things like that. It's like very much like almost like dystopian, I would say, but not too dystopian. Like it could be like a thing that would actually happen in the future, you know, and messes with my head. And like that's like fine, but like the plot could have been really good, but the characters just fell flat to me. Like especially like the main character, whose name is May, and she was like constantly like, when she was having a conversation with someone, I felt like she wasn't putting anything in. She was just answering questions. Like the other people would ask her questions, she would respond, and then they would ask her another question again, and like nothing came from her. Like I felt like all of her opinions and all of her like points of views were just like fed to her, and she just accepted them without any like without thinking about any of her own opinions and what she really thought. And that just like, I can't stand that. Like think, woman, like I don't know, like this whole book just rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like it. I finished it because I watched that movie, like there's a movie with it, and I watched it like years ago, and I didn't get any of it whatsoever. Like it didn't make sense to me. I was hoping that if I read this book, it would actually make sense to me because it's been bugging me for years, and it still doesn't make sense to me. Oh my god! But now I tried everything I could do. Right? I think there's like a second book kind of it, but I don't think it will be worth my time. Not if this one was 2 out of 5 stars. Okay, the seventh book I read this year was The Watchers by Aim Showing. It's another like horror type of book. I picked it up a few months ago when it was on sale and I was like, it sounded good. It's like these people are trapped in the forest and they're being watched by these creatures that they can't escape, and they can't like leave their like safety haven at night, and they have to do like scavenging and like trying to survive while these creatures are coming for them every night, trying to like get into their like place, and these creatures can like transform into like looking human, and it's very creepy. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't want to give too much about this book, but yeah, it was a good read. I thought it was interesting. I like the characters. Like they're not great, but I feel like for the situation that they're in, they weren't that bad. And once you get to like the plot twist, it all makes so much more sense. The only thing I will say is that I guess the plot twist like halfway through the book, which obviously isn't the book's fault. Maybe I'm just smart. Give it to me for one time, okay? Maybe, like, I don't know, but like, it was still a good book. I still enjoyed reading it. That's not it. It was just like a bit disappointing that I figured it out, I guess. But like, the ending was still like, it was still a good ending. I'm still like, what the fuck? I wish there was more of it, and it's always a good sign, I feel like. Like, I wish there was like more to read about it, but I also know that if there would be more, it wouldn't be as good. So yeah, you can't win with that situation. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. Solid read. I don't remember why I didn't rate it 5 stars. I probably had my reasons. I read it a while ago. Well, I mean like a few weeks ago, like probably like 2. But yeah, I still enjoyed reading it. If you want to read like, if you want to add like things to your horror TBR for like October, add this one. Or if you just want to read it now, I read it now, who cares? Okay, no. I know some people are not gonna like my star rating for the next book because it's also BookTok Baby and I rated it 2 stars. I almost want to say 2 out of 5 stars, but that's not right. I rated it 2. 1, 2. And That's Normal People by Sally Rooney. I just didn't care. Like, these people, they suck. I don't care. I didn't find it romantic. I thought it was all like very annoying. Like, I felt like it was like constantly like some sort of like a special like sort of like miscommunication going on, like, you know. And I hate the miscommunication trope. I know they're like teenagers and like they probably don't know better, or they think they're doing the right thing, but then they grow up and they're still just not saying it, and God, I couldn't stand it. And then the woman, what's her name, Marianne, I think it was, I don't remember, like the girl Marianne, I think. I just couldn't stand her. I know she's been through a lot, right? But I just don't care. I didn't care about the people, didn't care about the writing, didn't care about the story. I'll probably never pick up something by that author ever again unless they completely change like the vibes of their books, because it was the first book I read by Sally Rooney and I hated it, and I don't think it's worth a repeat whatsoever. I'm sorry. Can't help it. The ninth book that I read was a bit of a disappointment in my opinion. It was God Killer by Hannah Kinger, and I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. I really wanted to like this book more than I did. It's not a long read, but it still took me almost a week to read it, I think, because I was having such a hard time picking it up. Yeah, it's a new fantasy book. It's the third book in a trilogy. I will still pick up the second book, I think, because it was interesting enough to do that. I just hate it when you have like a fantasy book and this book is not perfect, right? It's only like 200 something pages, like 290 pages, less than 300 at least. And for like the middle part of it, like nothing happened and it was very slow. I think it started to pick up in like the last 30 pages. And like we do get like a lot of like character development, and like you get to know the world a bit better, because like a world has been destroyed by gods, and it's a pretty cool concept. Like I really like the concept, and the writing is fine. It was just very slow. And also, like, I know this is such a dumb thing, but I hated how big this book is and how long the pages were. Like, some of the chapters were also very long, and that also made it very hard to read for me. And I sometimes have a book difficulty when books are changing like POVs every chapter, and this book does that, and it's hard because all three characters that it flips through for the main part of the book, they are together, and it just felt a bit unnecessary. It even does it for four people, it does. And I'm like, I get that you want to see make them show like different points of views and all that, but it just came off a bit lazy. I don't know. It wasn't like there was like a big distinguishing voice in between all of the characters. They all started to kind of blend into one character for me, and that's just not a good sign in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, the writing was good, the ending was interesting, and the ending was the only thing that will make me want to pick up the second book. But I'm still not sure if I will. Like, if it comes out, it won't be my main priority. And then the last book I read, I had to read for school. I read it in Dutch, but that's not the point here. I read The Diary of Anne Frank, and I always feel weird reading books like this, right? Because I'm like, it's the same for me with like biographies or like memoirs, because I feel like I'm reading someone's life, and that's just, it doesn't make sense to me. Like saying like, oh, it's boring or like whatever. I'm like, that's their life. Like, might be boring, but like I feel like you can't really rate it. Still, I rated 4 out of 5 stars. Felt solid. I don't know. Like, I don't think I've ever rated a memoir like anything like that, like a book like this, more than 4 stars, because like I feel like 4 stars is like solid. I just don't think it's worth even 5 stars. But I also don't want to be like, oh no, your life is so boring. Like, obviously not. It's a very interesting book. Like, it's interesting to like read about the people who live like that and had to like go into hiding and like try to survive, and then like deal with like everyday problems still, or like not everyday problems obviously, but like there was like tension in the house. They were like living together with different family and different people, and it's not just like your own little like bubble, and they had to be stuck in there for like years, like literally years. And it's like insane how they like kept it up. Like, you know, like we thought we had it bad with like quarantine, but like you just still go like outside and stuff, and like they couldn't do that. And I was like, knowing what you know about like what happened during World War II, and then like reading it from her perspective that's actually written during that time is like insane. Yeah, it's very interesting. Do recommend it. I've been wanting to read this book for a while. I only just read it now because I had to pick it up for school or like for my studies, so it felt worth it. And it was very interesting. I'm glad I finally read it. I felt like it was like an important book to read. I think like if you have any interest in that kind of thing, you should read it. It's just a good book. Or like, it's interesting, it's important, it's giving you a new perspective of something that we don't like. Obviously we know a lot about World War II, but we don't ever like, it's hard to get such a big insight, I feel like, of like what it was like to live like that during that time. And it's very interesting. So yeah, and those were all the 10 books I read in April. As you can see, I didn't read any of the April hopefuls, so I won't be doing that for May because I know I won't read it. And in May also my exam, so if I read anything, I probably will, because I'm good at procrastinating. You will see, I just don't want to plan ahead, not right now. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you did, and I will see you later. Bye!